Good morning, everybody. My name is Sydney Bertram. I am a student at Clemson University and I grew up at Union. I really miss you all and I'm glad I get to talk to you this way this Sunday morning. So I wanted to discuss a little bit about what I've been thinking about throughout the pandemic and what God has been showing me and how God has been keeping me hopeful and even joyful, even though it's been a really difficult time. So in early March, when everything was going down, I was studying abroad, so I had to unexpectedly come home. And when I was on the plane home, I listened to a song called Red Sea Road by Ellie Holcomb for the first time. And it was just the exact song that I needed to hear at the moment, and I've listened to it over and over since then. It's the exact song that I need to be hearing for all of 2020, I think. And I'd love for you guys to listen to it after this too, because it just kind of really reflects the feeling that I've had throughout the pandemic, and I think it'll be the same for a lot of you. And even more importantly, because songs are great, but scripture is obviously the ultimate hope. So it's gotten me really focused on the story of God bringing the Israelites through the Red Sea. So when the Israelites were escaping Egypt, they went through the wilderness instead of the normal road and kind of ended up cornered between the pursuing Egyptian army and the Red Sea. So the army was behind them, the Israelites were right here, and the ocean was on the other side. So they had nowhere that they could go. And this was one of the first times where the Israelites expressed doubt to Moses and were like, take us back to Egypt. They just wanted where they had been before, and they'd kind of lost trust in God to get them through and were wondering why he would have taken them there. And so I think we have a lot of similarities with that. I know we would all love to go back to 2019 or even to January 2020 before we knew that all this was going to happen, when life was normal. But God is making a way. He's always making a way, and he does that for the Israelites, and he'll do it for us. And for the Israelites, even the way that God made was terrifying. They were going through the middle of the ocean, and on one side, or not the ocean, the Red Sea, but on one side they had a wall of ocean water, and on the other side they had a wall of ocean water, and behind them they had the Egyptian army still pursuing them. So I think that holds a lot of parallels for us. Even if we feel like God is giving us a way through, what we're seeing on every side is terrifying. We're seeing people dying, people getting COVID on either side of us on the news every day, and we don't really know what's next. The Israelites didn't know what was going to be next, whether the ocean walls would crash in on them and they'd all drown, or whether they'd get through. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't know what's next, and some days I really don't know if I'm going to get through. But at the same time, the pillar of fire and the pillar of cloud, that was God, was with the Israelites, and he was giving them hope and peace even in the middle of the ocean. So I wanted to read the little section from Exodus where the Israelites are going through the ocean, and this is Exodus 14, 19 to 25. So it says, "Then the angel of God, who was going before the host of Israel, moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them, coming between the host of Egypt and the host of Israel. And there was the cloud and the darkness, and it lit up the night without one coming near the other all night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the people of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, the waters being a wall to them on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued and went in after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And in the morning watch, the Lord in the pillar of fire and of cloud looked down on the Egyptian forces and threw the Egyptian forces into a panic, clogging their chariot wheels so they drove heavily. And the Egyptians said, 'Let us flee from before Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians.'" So the Israelites were living in what seemed like a myth. They were literally walking through the middle of an ocean, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm living in some weird science fiction novel some of the time. So that's kind of a first parallel, but also just like I was saying earlier, the complete unknown of where we are. The Egyptians and the Israelites, neither of them had been to the bottom of the ocean before, and here they were walking along the bottom of the ocean, and they were hemmed in. The Israelites had the Egyptians behind them and the terror of the ocean on the other side, but they also had the pillar of cloud, pillar of fire, depending on what time of day it was, between them and the Egyptians, and that was God with them. And we know that God is with us, even in this pandemic. We see it in people doing small things for each other. We see it in the fact that we're still having the seasons. Summer has still been beautiful. We still have great sunsets every night. There's so many different ways that we still see God and know that He is with us in the midst of the darkness. And I encourage you guys to look for that for yourself and see how God is between you and the coronavirus, and how God is making a way through all of the unknown and the fear. So definitely do some reflection after this. When I lead small groups, I love to discuss, but this is a video, so we can't really discuss. So maybe discuss with your families. What is chasing you right now? What does the Egyptian army look like for you? And what is the sea that's on either side of you? How are you uncertain? What are you fearful of in the unknown? And how has God pushed that fear aside for you? And how is He making a way through the Red Sea? Or maybe you're still hemmed in between the Egyptian army and the sea with no break in it at all, and you don't know how you're going to get out. How are you hopeful that He's going to come through for you? All right, I love you all a lot. I really hope we can see each other soon, but until then, stay safe, wear your masks,